Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today we're going over the Orks. We got another interesting video. But before we get into that, I just want to say this. Games Workshop, the people that you're catering to do not like you. They don't spend money, and they want you to go away. I was thinking about, starting an army, but not anymore. Because you don't care to put a trigger on the female custodes model. So, why should I care about getting your product if you don't care about it? And you're catering to people who don't care about it, right? And by the way, 1987's lore in 1987 totally debunks the female custodes. They are the noble sons of Terra. The only evidence that there were female custodes was a book in 2022. And we know what happened in the 2020s, right? Anyways, so I just wanted to get that off my chest. Also, I do want to say, guys, I am not a lore expert, okay? I don't claim to be, but I do want to say this as well. Malice is technically speaking part of the lore, but the reason why Games Workshop don't use them because of licensing stuff. So they can't really use them, but technically speaking, so that's why I put them in the last episode. But anyways, let's get started. The Orks, also called greenskins, are a savage, warlike, green-skinned species of bestial, asexual humanoids who are spread all across the galaxy. They are unique among the intelligent xeno species known to mankind in that they possess the physiological features of both animals and fungi. Yes, you heard that correct. They are fungus. They share many physical and cultural features with the dark fantasy Warhammer universe's orcs, and were initially called space orcs to distinguish them. Orcs are seen by their enemies, pretty much everyone else in the universe, as primitive, barbaric, hyper-violent, crude, but they are our most successful and widespread intelligent species in the whole galaxy, outnumbering possibly every other intelligent starfaring species, even humanity, with the very plausible exception of the Tyranids. Greenskins are one of the most dangerous alien races to plague the galaxy, numerous beyond belief and driven always to fight and conquer. The Orks threaten every single intelligent species of the galaxy. Orks are possibly the most warlike aliens in the 41st millennium, and their number is beyond counting. Amid constant seething tides of battle and bloodshed, burgeoning Orc stellar empires rise and fall. Mercifully, most are short-lived, soon destroying themselves in a maelstrom of violence and internecine conflict. But should the Orcs ever truly unify, they would crush all opposition, and that's an understatement. They would definitely crush us. But anyways, Orcs generate a potent psychic gestalt field that allows them to accomplish many feats of technological engineering that might otherwise seem impossible. At the same time, the power of the psychic field is directly proportional to the number of greenskins present in a given location. The more orcs that gather, the more orcs are drawn to them. In the same time, the power and intelligence of greenskins begin to grow with their numbers. Now, there's a misconception with the orcs that they think it and it just happens. That's not necessarily true. But as you saw there, the more there are, the powerful they get, basically. But anyways, the orcs' unquenchable thirst for battle has always proved their downfall. Historically, the orc tribes have spent much of their time fighting amongst themselves, waging brutal wars with only the strongest surviving. On occasion, an orc leader will emerge who is mighty enough to defeat his rivals and unite the warring tribes. Alright, so let's go to the forces of the orcs. And we'll get into the wall at the end. Okay. We got the warlords, war bosses, big mechs, mech pain boys, weird boys, which are like their psyker type, basically. The elites, the mega knob, the knob, burner boy, commandos, tank buster. I ain't gonna try to do the orc voice, guys. I've tried it many times and it sucks. So I'm not going to insult them with that. So fast attack, the war bikers, fly boys, storm boys, war buggy, death copter, the decajet, Daka. Burn bomber, blitz bomber. The troops, orc boys, run thirds, Gretchen. And we're going to bring up some goblins here in the Bible section. So, anyways, heavy support, the Gorgonaut, Morkanaut. So if you don't know, I should bring this up. Their gods are Gork and Mork. Okay. So Death Dread, Killer Khan, Battle Wagon, the Truck, Mech Gun, Flash Gits, the Lutas. And then you got the Gargants and Mega Gargants and the Stompa. Got the Orc starships and all that stuff. So now let's get into the biblical side of things. So first, we're going to get into where orc comes from. Okay. So, orc mythology blends ancient folklore of monstrous beings with J.R. Tolkien's influential creation, evolving from Old English orcneus, which means evil spirits, ogres, and Latin orcus, underworld god, to Tolkien's corrupted elves. Okay, so you see here, the Old English, the term comes from orcneus, meaning ogres or demons, appearing in the epic poem of Beowulf. Okay. So now we're going to get into this. Of course, got to bring up Genesis 6 when I talk about this stuff, right? So, Genesis 6. And it came to pass when men began to multiply in the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. So these are angels coming into the daughters of men here. And they took them wives of all which they chose. And you'll see here, let me bring this up, so you can see that it's angels. Yeah. Let's find Job here. You'll see the distinction here. Right here. Now, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So they're direct creations of God. Okay. He took them wives from all which they chose. So you see here, the sons of God and saw the daughters of men. See the distinction there? It's distinguishing between the two. Okay. And they took them wives of all which they chose, and the Lord said, my spirit should not always strive with man, for they are also flesh. Yet his days should be 120 years, and there were giants in the earth in those days. This is the word Nephilim. But anyways, earth in those days, or the Hebrew word Nephilim. And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And a Nephilim is this umbrella term for all these hybrid creatures and demons, basically. And the book of Enoch tells us that these entities became the demons because they didn't have a spirit. They weren't made in heaven, but they were stuck here on earth. So their spirits are stuck here on earth. And some were put in prison. At least according, I think it's Jubilees that says that, or Jasher, one of the two, at least according to that. But extra biblical books, if you can't find scripture to back it up, just throw it out until you find something that backs it up. But anyways, I'm not one of those people who says like the book of Enoch is inspired scripture or anything like that. It's just and I do believe it is inspired by, Enoch and all that, because Jude, here, I guess I should bring this up. Jude. Oh yeah, here's these angels, right? Let me find it right here. Right here. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath preserved in everlasting chains under darkness, unto judgment of the great day. That's these guys in Genesis 6 here. So, but that's not it. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. So Jude 14 and 15. And or 14 or Jude what? Oh yeah, okay. Well, anyways, that's a little weird. But and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and convince all that are ungodly among them that are ungodly deeds. This comes straight from First Enoch 1. First Enoch 1. Here, I better bring that up too, I guess. So that way you can see it is endorsed, but it's not canon per se, right? Yeah. Okay. So right here. And behold, he cometh with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and destroy all the ungodly, and convict all flesh of all their works. Where is it? So, there you go. And to execute judgment upon all, and convince all that are ungodly. Or right here, sorry. The Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints. So, there you go. It pulls straight from the book of Enoch. But we're not going to be talking about the book of Enoch today. I just wanted to tell you that the demons are these Nephilim. Sorry, that took a little longer than I wanted it to. Anyways, so this is where it gets interesting with the orcs. Joel 1:6. For a nation has come up upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and hath the cheek teeth of a great lion. He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away, and the branches thereof are made white. Okay, so let's go lion's teeth here. I'm also going to be bringing up a short of these red-haired giants that this person talks about, so we'll get into that as well. But check that out. Just like an orc, right? Now, I want to give you both sides of the story here. It also could be these people. Revelation 9 or 9:8. And they had hair as a hair of a woman, and their teeth was as the teeth of lions. Okay, so there is that. But it very well could be orcs. Okay. I want to bring this up first before we get into the Jubilees thing. Psalm 91, 5 and 6. Thou shalt not dread the night's dread of arrow. This is the Wycliffe Bible. This isn't the King James, but it's very interesting. Okay, of an arrow flying in the day. Thou shalt not fear the terror in the night, nor an arrow flying in the day. Of a goblin going into darkness. So we see here, so ogres or demons appearing in every and derives from Orcus, the Roman god of the underworld, linking orcs to demonic figures. And we see here, going into darkness. So, very interesting. Now that goes with the Gretchen, kind of, right? But anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. So this is Jubilees 5. starting in verse 1. And it came to pass when children of man began to multiply in the face of the earth. So this is Genesis 6, right? And daughters were born unto them. That the angels of God, there it is, saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon. And they took themselves wives of all whom they chose, and they bare unto them sons, and they were giants. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. So it's all being corrupted and being hybridized, per se, right? With this angel, human, and men. Like in Jasher 4, it says that men were experimenting with animal hybrids and all that. But okay, all of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of men was thus evil continually. Okay. Let me put my phone. My goodness. So, now let's get into this video here. This is Sunday Cool. Devil's Lake, something weird is going on in there. So if you want to check out, please check them out. Okay. Let me subscribe real quick because I did like it. So, like it. Okay.
The Devil's Lake in Wisconsin. This lake has everything. Dead giants, leviathan, serpents. It's in the mountains. It's a glacial runoff. And they speculate it could be 10,000 years old. The native people in that region, the Ho-Chunk people, talk about around this lake there was these red-headed giants that...
Check that out. Look at their teeth. Very interesting.
That would terrorize the Ho-Chunk people. And so the Ho-Chunk people basically prayed to their god or gods or whatever to help get rid of these giants. One day there was this big storm that came over and said fire rained down from the sky, killed all the giants. Ho-Chunk people said that for years the lake was red with the giants' blood.
Oh my gosh.
Holy moly.
Very interesting.
This lake was in...
And we see, this is why God had a crusade on these guys, right? Against the Rephaim and all that, the giants. And we're going to see here real quick. Not that one. Where is it? Right here. Numbers 13:33. And there we saw the giants. So this is why the 12 spies were afraid to go into the land, by the way, okay, of milk and honey. So, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come from the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, so we were in their sight. So very interesting how could be when God had enough of the giants again, because he took them out with the flood, but then we see here, Genesis 6, right? There were giants in the earth in those days and also after that. So, there you go. Let's finish this.
Inhabited by a giant wise serpent. It would also just consume and take people that would go by the lake. They tell this.
So there's a lot of mythologies that talk about this Leviathan that they would talk to in the waters and stuff like that, and then offer up sacrifice and stuff like that. We'll get into the Leviathan when we get into the Alpha Legion. But anyways.
Story of a thunderbird, giant sky being. So not necessarily a bird.
So that was just the nickname.
Yeah, this thunderbird went to battle with the serpent that occupied the lake. Said like this storm was just over the lake and it was just lightning. Ultimately, the thunderbird killed the serpent, and that's not where it ends.
Oh no!
Because even today, people report for the past 100 years, they're seeing a giant serpent-like creature.
That very well could be the Assyrian. Anyways, but that's a whole story in itself.
In this lake still. More weird is that the military has done multiple exercises in this lake.
Really?
Yeah. They have restricted underwater zones. There's been reports of unmarked black vehicles after these sightings. And there's occasionally those like stealth helicopters that fly around this lake.
If they're getting involved, there's something there.
Something there.
That's gotta be.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go here. Get rid of that one. So there you go.
G'day, guys.
No. Okay. So we saw that. So let's go in Ezekiel. This is where it gets interesting. So, real quick, I want to bring this up actually. So, Gog and Magog could be mythical giant figures central to British legend, representing ancient inhabitants of Britain, slain by the Trojan founder Brutus, and later becoming an iconic guardians of London. So, these are two giants, and also a land, the land of Magog. But anyways, and this is where this Wah type thing comes in too. But anyways, son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. He shows up in the end times, by the way, so he's probably a Raphaim, just like Og is, right? But anyways, and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army and horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, house of Togarmah in the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and thou be a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. Ready? In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. Interesting, it has been brought back from the sword, hasn't it? And is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always a waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. Okay. So we saw that actually. So right here, Revelation 28. And when, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, a number of whom is of the sand and the sea. And they went up to the breadth of the earth, or upon the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from God of heaven and devoured them. So, very interesting. There is this Wah type thing going on. And this Gog is this giant, Raphaim type character, right? Because we see here, like Gog, or Og, sorry. For only Og, king of Bashan, probably these ogre type beings, by the way, I should say, okay, and remained of the remnant of the giants. So, this word for giant, of course, is Raphaim. Inhabitants of an east of Jordan, blah, 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 right here. Rapha, from Rapha, in the sense of invigorating a giant. So we go to the root word, which means to mend, to cure, properly to mend, stitching, figuratively, to cure, physician, repair, thoroughly, make whole. Very interesting. So these undead beings, right? Okay. So now we're going to go back to Warhammer 40k, and we're going to get into the Wah. So, barbaric and savage, their greenskins spread across the galaxy like a viridian stain. They plagued the battlefields of the late 31st millennium in great numbers, overrunning any who stand before them in a torrent of bloodshed and usually mindless violence. An Ork Wah is a war on apocalyptic scale. Orcs beyond counting swarm from one world to the next. Whole civilizations are exterminated, and defenders' armies laid waste as the orcs plow onward in the unstoppable tide. Orcs need battle just as humans need food and drink. Due to their warlike nature, they constantly fight amongst themselves or launch periodical raids upon nearby enemies. Such conflicts tend to be small, or small scale or localized. They never really develop beyond random outbursts of violence and looting. However, orc populations can reach a critical mass that leads to a full-scale planetary migration. This is known as a war, a crusade of pure aggression that crashes through the star systems in an orgy of violence. Orc behavior is dominated by the war, a just-out psychic field that they generate that affects the orc's psyche, which allows the orcs to instinctively recognize who is bigger and the war boss and all that, right? But anyways, and therefore who is in charge. Since might makes right in orc society, all orcs generate this field, and it has grown stronger as the orcs enjoy themselves, generally while fighting. And this is why when the orcs, they keep fighting, some of them get bigger and bigger, and that's who they see, who the boss is, right? Okay, generally while fighting, as more often them congregate together in one geographical area. The wall helps give momentum to the orcs' planetary assault campaigns, which are known as wars. Orcs like to call a lot of things wars, such as a war is a cross between a holy crusade and a pub brawl, with a bit of genocide thrown in it for good measure. Thousands of orcs will gather together, drawn to the power of the single dominant orc called a war boss or warlord. If the war is particularly massive, who is bigger and more intelligent than the orcs around him? Then the orcs will set off to find an enemy to fight and defeat. Orc wars will sweep whole planetary systems away and destroy armies and fleets in tides of bloodlust and carnage. And only once the orcs have killed every available enemy will they start to fight amongst themselves again. Alright. Or I guess I should read this part to you. The Imperium of Man's tech priests have theorized that this just-out psychic field also is a telekinetic or quantum probabilistic effect, allowing the seemingly ramshackle and poorly designed orc technology, my goodness, to work as the greenskins expect. It is believed that the reason this hypothesis came into existence is that the Imperium adopted the Adeptus Mechanicus religious belief that aspects of a universal motive force inhabits all technology, and that these machine spirits serve mankind at the command of the machine god. I actually did a short on the motive force if you want to check that out. But anyways, so you guys get it. There's the wall, the orcs, and the wall, and the biblical side of things on that. So, anyways, we're going to end this here, guys. If you liked the video, thank you very much. If you disliked the video, well, thank you for at least giving me a chance. Also, if you're looking for a jitterless energy drink, check out Dubby Energy Drinks. They have many flavors. They also sponsored with Crunchyroll, and they have all kinds of stuff in that orbit and sphere. So if you want to check them out, check out the link in the description. You get 10% off for using that, and I do get a cut of that, so you'll be helping out the channel. But anyways, guys, thank you, and you have a wonderful day.